Hi, this is Paul Anderson. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Over the last 2 years, I've got quite a few emails, and most of them are really nice and super positive. But I also get a lot of questions. And so what I decided to do is go through and find the 10 most commonly asked questions and then answer those in a video. And so I, being a nerd, put this in a spreadsheet and took the last 300 comments and emails I got and then figured out which ones are most popular. And so the good news is that the majority of those, so some 70% of those, are actually thank yous. So people saying thank you, you really appreciate the videos, and so that makes me feel awesome. And so what I'm going to do is take those out of this pie chart right here, and now I've got the top 10 frequently asked questions that I get. The most commonly asked question is, what kind of software are you using? A lot of teachers are watching this and trying to figure out how they could use it in their classroom. And so the first thing that I should let you know is that I'm using a Mac. And so I'm using a MacBook, but there's also software available for the PC as well. And so the first piece of software that I have is something called ScreenFlow. And I've tried some free alternatives, but I've never found anything as good as ScreenFlow. The one problem with it is it's expensive. It costs, I think the education discount is maybe $89, and it's really the only software that I pay for the most part. Most everything else I use is open source. If you're using a PC, if it were me, I would use something like, what I've seen that's good is Camtasia Studio. It may actually be a little bit more expensive on the PC side, but again, all the free alternatives I get, they're harder to edit, they don't include video, and so I think these two pieces of software are really good. What I mostly do is I'll actually write what I'm going to talk about in a keynote presentation. And so what this pie chart and these graphics over here were all made in a keynote presentation. If you're a PC, you could just use PowerPoint to do that. And so the first thing I do is I actually think through what I'm going to talk about during my podcast, and then I lay it out in a keynote presentation. The one thing that I've added this year is something called OmniDazzle, and I'm sure there's a PC equivalent, but what OmniDazzle does is allows me to write on the screen. And so ScreenFlow is recording the screen right now. Keynote is what I wrote the presentation in. That's where the graphics are. And then finally I use OmniDazzle to actually draw on the screen. Now the other thing that I'm using is this. This is a Wacom tablet. And so graphic artists use these, and I've found that you can use them really nicely to just write on the screen. And so that's kind of the software that I use to put it all together. I think what I'll do is put together another podcast that shows specifically how I make my screencasts. So that's the most commonly asked question that I get. Next question I get asked a lot about is Moodle. I make reference to a Moodle classroom. In other words, in my class, I teach AP Biology and then a gifted and talented physical science. I have a Moodle classroom, and what that is an online alternative to my regular classroom. So kids can go home at night and they can look at podcasts and do homework, and there's tons of stuff on there. And so a lot of people send me messages and want to know if they can have access to that. The problem with that is I teach high school kids, and so I can't give anybody access to my Moodle class. That's just part of it. It's kind of a walled garden, which is nice. And so I'd love to give you access to my Moodle class, but I simply can't. Okay, next most common question I get is actually a lot of students asking me for help on their homework. I try to help as best I can. I try to be kind of short. I try to spend more time on the kids in my own class, but I'm always willing to help out if you have questions. The one thing that I would point you to would be this over here. Almost all the questions I get from kids online, if you were to just simply Google the question, you'd have a better answer than you're going to get from me. And also it's going to take me a little while to get back to you. And so again, I'd love to help out with homework, but it's not always going to happen overnight, for sure. Okay, next common question I get is, what textbook are you using? And so a lot of my videos obviously have to do with AP Biology, and so this is the big thing that I teach, and a lot of you use it to get ready for your class, and I know a lot of teachers are watching these as well. And so what we did is, when we started teaching, we started with Campbell's biology book. I don't know what version it is, but it's by Pearson. And then a few years ago we switched, and so what I now use is the Biology Concepts and Connections. I've added so much stuff to my class, podcasts and and like little pen casts and a wiki for my class that I found, the reading was just too daunting. And so the nice thing about this textbook, and again, I'm not sponsoring them, is that they put one concept on each page. And so there's not so much reading. It's also got similar content that you would find in the Campbell book, but I think my kids have done fine on the AP test without using the big textbook, and so I can cut down on the amount of reading that they have to do. I think this book is actually designed for nursing students in college, and so you'll find that there are going to be pages within the book that are just related to the health fields, but you can kind of skip over those and get to the meat of the material. So again, if you supplement your class with a lot of other things like I do, I think this book is just totally adequate. Another one I get, a common request is specific videos that you would like to have me make. In other words, could you please do one on something that I'm studying in anatomy? I would love to add as many videos as I can, but they take quite a while to add. And so what I do is I make ones that are just used in my class. And so who pays me is the school district. And so I teach at Bozeman High, and so this is their little logo over here. And so my students come first. In other words, I'm always going to make videos for my class, which ends up being AP Biology. I've started teaching this year a physical science, and so I'm going to go through some chemistry videos and some physics videos, and so hopefully those will be helpful as well. And so if I can't add the video that you'd like, I apologize for that, but you don't pay me, and so my school district does. Okay, next comment, and I like this next one. Next common question I get is, hey, can I use this in my class? I'd like to show it, and you're asking me for permission. Absolutely. That's why I make these videos and put them on YouTube. I make them for my students, but I add them to YouTube so students around the world can use it. And so if you're a teacher and you'd like to show these to your class, feel free to do that. I can't give you copies of the videos. That's just, they're too big and it's hard to send it. But there's software out there that allows you to take YouTube videos and download them. And so if you want to use them for anything, I think that's totally awesome. The only thing I request is that don't sell it. The videos that I make, I hope to give away for free. On YouTube, they ask you if you want to add advertising when your videos get to a certain level, and I always decline that. I think as teachers, we just have an obligation to put material out there for free, and so I'm not hoping to make anything from it. This is a book I read just this last year. It's Chris Anderson's Free. I would encourage you to look at it, and talks about how free is a really cool thing, and it can eventually create a world that's a better place to be. Okay, next question I get fairly common is I talk about the word podcast. In other words, there's podcasts in my class, and I think a lot of people associate that word with iTunes, and so they think when I'm talking about podcasts that I'm referring to podcasts that I somehow have in iTunes. I don't add stuff to iTunes or iTunes U. I've never done that. And so if you're looking for podcasts in iTunes, I just don't put it there. Any of the videos that I make are going to be available on YouTube. I'll always post them there. And so I don't make any other podcasts. And so if you're looking for that, stop looking because it's really not out there. Okay, next question I get a lot of is, who are you? What do you do? Are you a college professor? Are you a high school professor? I'm a high school teacher, and so I'm a high school science teacher at Bozeman High School. It's in Montana. And so I'm just teaching high school classes. I have a master's degree in science ed. I have a degree in biology, and so I do have a degree, and I've taught for about 17 years in science. And so those are kind of my credentials. One little thing, on an award that I just got this last year was the Montana 2011 Teacher of the Year, and I think a lot of that has to do with innovative stuff that I've been doing online. And so thanks to you for all of those who've been watching the videos and helped out. Last thing I get quite a bit is I can't see the videos. They're not showing up in school. Usually what that is your school has a filter. I just got an email yesterday from somebody who is in Iran, and they can't get to the YouTube videos. Those are blocked as well. There are alternatives to YouTube. I know that there is TeacherTube. And TeacherTube is sometimes not blocked in schools. So I may look at uploading some of my videos to that. I've seen a lot of advertising on there, which I'm really not too into, and so I'll see, but I may look at that. I can't really host the videos on my own site because it just takes too much space. They're really too big. And so if it's not showing up in your school, what I would say is complain to the tech people in your school and ask them if you could see it, show them what the videos are like, and hopefully they'll quit filtering it. And that's kind of it, the top 10 frequently asked questions that I get. If you have other questions, I'd love to answer those questions. You can always email me. You can find a contact at bozemanscience.com, and so you can fill out that, and I'll make sure to get it. And also, you can send me personal messages through YouTube, and I try to answer them as quickly as I can. And so I hope that's helpful.